Bonjour. Désolé, je ne parle pas de français. D'accord. Anglais, okay? Okay. You have a wonderful translator, Florence, in the back, so she will do a great job. And very excited to get to talk to all of you. This is my first time in France outside of Paris. And I'm very, very honored to be here at Inbound Marketing France. Merci beaucoup to the entire team from Winbound for putting this together. It's quite an amazing event. So, we have a lot to get through. These slides are not yet online, but after the conference is over, they've told me that this presentation will be available on YouTube. Thanks to this fine gentleman here. If you're sitting right in front of him, just wave if you want to see your fingers in the video. My jokes don't get any better, sorry. So what I want to try and do today is cover where we are headed as a marketing industry and talk very specifically about why some of the tactics and practices that worked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, are working less and less. So let's first dive into what inbound marketing, or some people called it the SEO and content play, looked like for at least the last decade, if not longer. Right? So this is probably very common, very familiar to most of you. You would go and do some keyword research and some audience research, figure out the topics and the keywords that your audience was interested in. You would see which ones are getting a lot of search volume, right? Which keywords have high demand in Google. And then you would go and you'd create some good content that you would use to try and rank for those keywords. And you'd broadcast that content to whatever channels you had available to you. RSS, right, in the early days, email subscriptions, which have continued on, and especially social media. The last decade especially, we used Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Reddit and Pinterest and whatever networks we could find, whatever was available to us, to broadcast the content we created. And from there, we would grow our followers, our subscribers, our audience. Right? And this worked in a beautiful way, because every time we broadcast something, we would earn more additional people paying attention to us. And then we'd earn links and amplification from that. Sometimes we would do outreach to try and get that, right? Get people to write about us, get people to talk about our brand, get people to cover the content that we've created, which is smart, good idea. Worked well for a long time. It's grueling work, right? Anybody who's done link building, I assume many of you have done some link building outreach. That was the first 5 years of my career, was emailing people for links, which is a thankless job. And then from this, we would bring people to our websites who would consume our content. We'd get their email addresses. We'd get them to sign up. Some of them would purchase directly. For those who didn't, we would retarget and remarket to them. We would use ad platforms to reach them. Smart. So this system worked for a long time. It still works today, but I bet those of you who have been doing it recently have felt like there's something wrong. There's something we're missing. It's not, we're putting in more and more effort, we're getting smarter and better at it, and yet the results are harder and harder to come by. The ROI, the return on investment, is not the same as it was just a few years ago. Why is that? Well, I'm going to be overly simplistic and talk about some of the root causes briefly, and then we'll spend a little more time on that. First off, keywords are sending less traffic than they used to. This is a new phenomenon. In only the last 2 years have we seen Google actually stop sending as much traffic out as it used to. I'll talk about that in a bit. Good content, the content that we create seems to not be doing its job. The content that 5 years ago or 10 years ago would have gotten us links and rankings and traffic and social broadcast amplification isn't doing those things. And so we're having to step up our game more and more just to get the same results. The links, the content that we promote on social media is not traveling the way it used to. It's not, I don't know why, it's not working, right? And that frustrates a lot of us as well. And of course, fewer of our followers, the people who signed up and said, yes, Facebook, I want to see what Rand is producing. Yes, Twitter, I want to follow Rand. Yes, LinkedIn, I want to see. Fewer and fewer as a percent of those people are seeing the content that we broadcast on those networks. Outreach has gotten much, much more difficult. I think that in a lot of ways, the rise of influencer marketing has led to a decline in the rate of success because more and more of us are pinging and communicating with these same groups of people who are overwhelmed with opportunities, therefore ROI drops. And of course, the ad prices, the cost of doing effective marketing on these ad platforms is nightmarish. Very, very tough. So what is it that caused all these things? I have a theory. I have 4 theories. I have a theory that these 4 things, these 4 horsemen, as I call them, you have the same thing en français. 1, 2, 3, 4, cavallo? Cavaliers. Merci. These 4 horsemen are responsible. First one. So social platforms have changed a lot of the way that they operate, right? The way that they built up their success from sort of early days of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, et cetera. The early days of these platforms is gone, and they're in a more mature space right now, and they are seeking massive growth and ownership of their markets. So a few years ago, Facebook started killing off organic reach, right? This is the ability that you have to post a piece of content to your Facebook page, a public page or a personal page, and have it be seen organically by a large number of people who signed up to follow you. This fell off a cliff. You can see the numbers there, almost at 0% by 2016. That's 3 years ago now. Outbound referral traffic from Facebook has been dropping off a cliff as well. So it's not just organic traffic, but even posts that did well organically for many of these media outlets that then had struggled to compete organically. People would pay to promote them. And even that payment was not working. And this has hit every vertical. You've probably read about it hitting the media most strongly. Obviously, this week we saw big layoffs from some American publishers, BuzzFeed and Huffington Post, and I think we're expecting a lot from Gannett Media as well. But this is true of all these sectors, not just media. B2B has been hit, travel has been hit, entertainment's been hit. Even publishers whose whole purpose, like BuzzFeed, was to create content that did well on Facebook are not getting rewarded by Facebook. Right? I think that Facebook pulled a bait and switch. I don't know what to call this in France. You say, oh, we're going to do this wonderful thing for you. It'll be great for your business. And then it turns out to be terrible for your business. Pretty much what Facebook did there. Instagram, of course, has become one of the leading social networks, and it has virtually no way to link out. You can do it in your profile page, but link in bio rarely drives a lot of traffic. Twitter and LinkedIn are now learning from Facebook's example. So Twitter and LinkedIn are both showing you in your feed, in your algorithmic feed, they show you content that is more likely to keep you on Twitter or on LinkedIn versus sending you off to someone else's website. Which, I mean, look, if we're all executives at LinkedIn or Twitter, makes sense, but It's really bad news for publishers and for content marketers in particular who rely on basically these three networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, to promote our work. Reddit, same story. So Reddit, for a decade, for its first decade, was a site that drove a lot of traffic to other websites. Now, not so much. YouTube. YouTube is just blatant about it. So this, right underneath here, I don't want to go too far back, but right underneath where it says Marvel Entertainment there, they have a link to the website where you can, see more about the Captain Marvel trailer on the official site. And wherever you put the link in your YouTube description, YouTube will cut it off right before the URL so that someone has to click view more right before they can see that URL. Again, YouTube trying to keep people on YouTube. So I asked some friends of mine at JumpShot, which is a clickstream data provider. So they collect data at the browser level. Lots of people have, browser extensions or software installed on their desktops, on their mobile devices that anonymously sends all the URLs that they visit in their browser back to JumpShot. And then they can show us this data on hundreds of millions of devices around the world. So very, very cool data source. I'm going to be showing data from them in here, and then I'll be showing it again when we talk about search market share and how Google is doing, specifically in the EU and in France. So who's still sending any web traffic? Is there anybody out there? Just Google. Just Google, basically, right? So this is, over the last couple of years, even Google has actually dropped. They are now sending less traffic than they used to send 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but they're number one by a large margin. And you can see that everybody else, Facebook is less than 1/10 the size of that. So we talked about this. Don't worry. The presentation starts off doom and gloom, but then, at the end, we're going to talk about some strategies to mitigate. So if you're feeling like, well, maybe I should go work in a bookstore, just hold on. I got your back. All right. So Google is doing this thing, right, where they solve more and more search queries without sending any clicks. Right? So they basically take content, all of this content, this is not content that Google generated. They scrape this content from the websites that rank in the top 10, top 20 for best movies on Netflix. And then they aggregate it together and they provide this nice little interface so that you never have to click on any of those websites, right? They've taken your work, our content, and they've organized it and made it accessible. And they've made sure we don't get any credit for it. Thank you. I searched for the best cheeses. I don't know. Look, I don't know a ton about cheese, but I feel like this is not totally representative. Roquefort is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, right? Or best films. Avengers. Black Panther was great, but Avengers, I don't know. We'll see. I watched Mission Impossible on the plane. No, that was terrible. But you get the idea, right? That Google is basically taking the clicks away from the publishers that put this work together and answering it right in the search results. This is extremely strong in the United States, and it is very high in other English language speaking countries. And Google is progressively rolling it out to more and more countries and languages over time. You'll see that data in a second. So from JumpShot, I assembled some desktop click-through rate. This is gathered from several billion search queries performed between January and October of 2018. So last year, 9 months of last year, they assembled this data. And this is for the EU, still including the UK, despite their madness. It used to be that I could be like, oh, the UK, those British people, what were they thinking? But now America is garbage too, so. Paid, 6.4%. This is desktop devices, so laptops, right, big screens. 6.4% on paid. Organic, 63%. No-click searches, 30%. No-click search is where you perform a query, but you don't click any of the results. So this is actually not unreasonable. This is pretty similar to what it was 2 years ago. It's higher in no-click searches, and it's lower in organic, but not totally untenable. Let's take a look at mobile. So first off, mobile, Google has done a phenomenal job of prioritizing paid, right? And making sure that the paid clicks are very difficult to discern and very difficult to see below. So here we go. We've got paid is around 8.8%, so higher than it is on desktop. And then I'll show you why this is so hard. So let's go find the first organic result, right? In this search query. We'll go scroll. Oh, there it is, an organic result. My God, it's like a endangered tiger. And sure enough, it is in danger. Look at that. 36% organic click-through rate. This is for the EU specifically, averaged all together. So all the EU countries put together. I will show you a breakout in a sec of France specifically. And no-click searches, more than half of all searches are no-click on a mobile device, which is pretty insane. That's tough. And the scary part is the trend. So this is just 2 years ago. This is 2016, the same time period, January to October, versus 2018, January to October. And look at those numbers. I mean, in mobile, that's crazy. 30% drop in organic, 20% increase in no-click searches. And paid is double. 4% was the paid click-through rate in the EU on mobile 2 years ago, and now it's 8.8. It is mind-numbing. I mean, if you're doing PPC, you're like, yes, nailed it. I got you. But it's expensive, very expensive. So here's that breakdown, and I'm not going to try and go in-depth on all of these slides, but this data is in the blog post on SparkToro about Google's sort of EU monopoly. And you can see France here, actually a little bit higher on organic, France is, than the EU average on desktop. But in mobile, that is rough. Now, if you think it's bad, look at the United States. I mean, if you're an American SEO, mobile is your enemy. It is just bad. And this is the direction that Google is going in worldwide, right? You can see it. You can almost always see this trend start in the US, where Google does its experimentation first, and then it rolls out to other countries progressively and other languages. So, real tough. And they're doing this in all sorts of sectors, right? Sector after sector, they take the clicks. So Google Maps and local, right? I search for restaurants in Rennes, and here we go. If I click on Le Galopin, I want to go to their website, probably, right? Historically. Now, instead, I get Google Maps' listing for them. And if you want to find the website, it's not super easy. Not very accessible. They're doing this in jobs, where they're aggregating data from a bunch of job listings across the web and then putting them together so you never have to go visit the job sites. They do this in film and television. They aggregate all of that information as well. They do it in sports. I'm not actually sure. If I were the WNBA, by the way, but Seattle no longer has an NBA team. We lost the Sonics 12 years ago. Very sad. But we do have the world champion, American champion, women's NBA team, the Seattle Storm, which is incredible and has won a ton of championships. But I don't know why they provide these numbers to Google directly. I mean, if I were them, I would be skeptical of this. I don't know that this does anything for me. I'd rather have, if I were the WNBA, I would rather have one click than 100 people see the scores, because I can remarket and retarget those people and I can sell them tickets. I don't know how much value I'm getting from this. This is tough. Hotels. Anyone who's been in the hotel field knows how Google has just come in and taken over that space. Same with flights, right? That has been really rough for a lot of airline carriers and aggregators. So I tweeted about this, and I think this person brings up a reasonable point, right? Google is doing a good job of solving for their user, for the searcher. I think the concern, though, is that they are doing so at the expense of the creator, right? The people who create the content, who aggregate the content, who market the content, are in a prisoner's dilemma. Because if we don't create that content, our competitors will. But Google is going to aggregate it and take all the value from it anyway. So it's kind of a lose-lose for a publisher, for a marketer. Let's talk about the third horseman. Which is the world of influence. So I think in a lot of ways, there are many people in the marketing world who hoped that influencer marketing, which has been on a few years, would be a savior, right? We would be able to reach our audiences through these influencers, right? People who have followings across social networks. And global spend reflects that trend, right? We're seeing a ton of dollars pour into this space, billions of them, but I am not sure. I don't know. I mean, yes, this person has nice cheekbones and a dashing jacket, but is that what's going to make me buy a BMW? I don't know. Maybe. Well, I think one of the things that we're learning is that a ton of the influencer world is not real, right? The people who have these followings and who get this, these brand deals, many of them, and much of the effects that they have are not reaching real people. They are, in fact, fake. A lot of them are machine-generated followers, machine-generated statistics. That is tough. So there was a great interview, actually, with this guy I was showing earlier via the drum, talking about how less than 50% of the executives, the ad and marketing executives that this influencer works with, even care about the numbers. They don't even look. Just don't bother. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of dollars, but almost certainly at a very low ROI. I think that makes it pretty tough to invest. We built a little tool at SparkToro. It's just a free tool to analyze someone's Twitter followers and see which ones are real and engaged versus fake or never log into their Twitter account. And in fact, you can see that for this sartorialist, 35% of the people who supposedly follow this account are probably never on Twitter. Many of them probably don't even exist. They're not actual real people. So when we released this tool, the first thing that everybody did is search for Donald Trump. Like that was the first. They looked at their own account, right? Oh, I'll type in Randfish. Oh, okay, I have this many fake followers. How many does Donald Trump have? And they would immediately Google this. And so we put together some data. We actually analyzed every one of Trump's followers, and 61%. That's a lot of fake people who are following him on Twitter. I think maybe that's good news. We'll leave the politics out of it for right now. One big problem that I see in the influencer marketing space is that, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, influencer marketing, the phrase, the tactic meant go discover all the sources, all the publications and people and places that influence your audience and do all kinds of marketing in those places. But today, when we say influencer marketing, we mostly mean pay half-naked people on Instagram to pose with your product. I think the 2012 definition was a better idea. I think that we've got to go back. We should go back to the original influencer marketing definition and broaden out. So there's all these potential sources of influence, but when we do influencer marketing, we are only doing it on basically YouTube and Instagram. That seems very odd to me. I think that's quite strange. And there is a backlash that's already here, and I think there's a bigger one coming, and we are almost certainly going to see a plateauing of the influencer marketing field in the next couple of years. Some of that might be regulation, but I suspect a lot of it is just going to be brands finding that they're throwing dollars away. Number 4, our last horseman. So, if all this organic stuff is falling apart on us, right? SEO and social and content, these things are harder to do and losing ROI, and a lot of these the networks are taking this traffic for themselves. What's the solution? Well, what they want the solution to be, right? Facebook and Google, the duopoly, they want the solution to be pay me, right? Pay me money. And a lot of people are. In fact, so many people are paying, and there's so much money flooding into a lot of these ad networks that many of the companies that I have worked with and advise and help out have seen what I will basically call growth over profit advertising. Meaning, they're willing to put dollars toward Facebook and Google ads and web ads in general, to the point that it has a negative return on investment. They're losing money on every ad, but making up for it in volume? Why? How does that work? And it works because of the math of how venture capital and private equity returns are distributed. Essentially, all the money goes to the winners. And so, an Uber, an Airbnb, and 10,000 other venture-backed companies are willing to throw dollars at these platforms to the point where negative ROI comes into play. And they're not looking for profit. They just want growth. They want an increased number of users acquired, people using the service. And that means that for the rest of us who have to make money in order for our businesses to thrive, we can't compete. Right? The ad bids in a lot of these sectors go above what's profitable, or they're right at the line. And so throwing dollars at these platforms becomes a devil's bargain. I do also see some of what you see in influencer marketing as well, where there's a lot of marketers who aren't held accountable to profitability metrics, only to growth numbers, which is challenging for the rest of us too. And this is true in display, it's true in social, it's true in search, it's true in a lot of remarketing and retargeting. And this ad ROI rate's been trending down for years. Any of you who worked on early Facebook ads, early Google PPC, you remember the days when you could earn 10x returns because there weren't enough people participating, and so that your dollars just went a lot further. So what do we do? What do we do? Infuriating. Okay. I don't think the cause is hopeless. In fact, I think that there is a lot of opportunity if you are smarter than your competitors. And if you're here, you're almost certainly ahead of a lot of people who aren't savvy to these tactics. So let's talk about what a battle plan looks like for marketing over the next few years. I think that we're going to take this classic inbound marketing playbook that worked so well for so many brands, and we're not throwing it out. We're just evolving it. We're evolving it so that it matches the way these platforms work. So I'm going to go through each of these and talk about kind of what needs to change, what we have to update in this sort of classic, 6-step process. First thing that I will recommend is that we center all of our marketing on our website and our email lists. For a long time, we've put a bunch of attention and awareness and a ton of our efforts toward having brand presence on all of these other platforms. And I'm not saying throw that out, just use it wisely to drive people back to our websites while we still can. So no matter what platforms you're using, whether that's YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or links on other people's sites or Google Maps or Twitter or LinkedIn or Snapchat or Pinterest, whatever it is, that all of this SEO, right, all of it has to drive back to your website and your email lists. Those are two things that you own and control completely. And these platforms can't take that away from you, right? Once you have visitors and subscribers and emails, those are yours. So, vieille école cool. I have two examples of old school cool. One, Cary Grant in Paris. Old school cool. And two, own and control your website. Own and control your web platform. I know it sounds like we're marketing in 2001. We got to return to that in a lot of ways if we want to have a competitive advantage over the rest of the field. In my opinion, I would rather have 10 email addresses than 10,000 followers. Seriously, literally, I would take that. Because the reach with 10,000 new followers on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter is so comparatively low to what I can get with 10 email addresses of real people who might really be my customer. I will take 100 website visitors over those 10,000 followers. I will take 100 true fans anytime over 100,000 visits. I think that what we want to do is think about our marketing in terms of passion as opposed to pure exposure. I think the brands that win, that have been winning and that are going to keep winning, especially in the profitable sector of the business world, are those that aim for passion over raw traffic, right? Or raw followers. This applies to SEO as well. So in the world of SEO, I would think more about click volume than I would about search volume. So the classic numbers, if you use whatever it is, SEMrush or Ahrefs or Google AdWords or you use Moz, you will find that many SEOs and search marketers in general order their search efforts by which terms and phrases have the most volume. That was okay years ago, but I would let my competitors go chase after things that have lots of search volume. This is inside Keyword Explorer, Moz's Keyword Explorer, right? But have terrible click-through rate because most people don't click on those organic numbers. And I would go after these, the ones that have much smaller monthly numbers that my competitors are probably not chasing, but that have much better organic click-through rates. I'm more likely to see return on my effort when I rank for these. Let's talk about a marketing flywheel, because I think that anytime I have seen a business truly have great success in their field, it is because they have a right flywheel. So the idea behind a marketing flywheel is one that scales with decreasing friction. This means you put in a lot of upfront effort to get the system working, right, to get the flywheel running. But then each revolution only requires, less and less energy. And so I'll walk you through the classic one, right, that we've talked about a little bit here. But classic content marketing flywheel, content and SEO, was like, I do some keyword research and I have my industry intuition, right? And then I publish content, I push that to my email and RSS subscribers, I promote it on social, I earn links from that and amplification. I grow those channels. I grow my domain authority, which means I can rank better next time, right? Then I earn search and referral traffic. And finally, I can get more and more competitive keywords. And this this process, this is exactly how I built Moz's blog, and many, many brands have built theirs. This is how HubSpot built up their content marketing engine. But it's not the only one. There's lots of other flywheels, right? PR and ads. Find places that reach your customers. Go craft some stories, some events, some work that's going to draw their coverage, pitch the media on that, right? Earn that press coverage, amplify it, promote it, run ads targeting the visitors who come to you through that, expand your social followings, slowly convert those fans and followers over time, and then you refine this process, right? And this is a virtuous flywheel that's worked for a lot of companies. Or what about enterprise sales? A lot of enterprise sales companies use this process, right? ID events with some customer targets. I sponsor and I pitch and I try and present, and I'm present at those events, right? You have a booth. You host dinner parties. You sponsor those events. You capture visitor info at those events. You reach out with direct and indirect emails. You cookie the site visitors and the email opens so that you can track their behavior. You run hyper-personalized ads so that you're getting in front of them at the right times, and then you improve that conversion rate, optimization, and sales process. And now you find more customers who are like the customers you've already captured, and you bring them back into your world in the same way. And this scales with decreasing friction, right? The first few times you try and do this, it's like pulling teeth. And after a few revolutions, it works really well. So this is the whole concept behind a marketing flywheel. It's hard at first, but it gets easier to scale with time. And if you build one of these, even as the networks work against you and create friction, you can find hacks to smooth those points of friction and keep your engine running. But if you're reliant on a single channel or a few, that rug can get pulled out from under you. One of the things that I really urge people to do when they're thinking about how are we creating our flywheel, what does our marketing flywheel look like, is can you build a flywheel that sparks demand? Meaning not demand for a product that you offer, but demand for your particular brand. So I don't want to create demand for cloud computing. I want demand for my business, right? AWS, if I'm Amazon in this instance, or in this instance, it's not steaks. I don't want people who are interested in buying steak online. I want people who are interested in Crowd Cow, which is a particular brand in the United States. And you can see that over time, that's exactly what their flywheel has built, right? That they're growing their branded search so that now more people are searching for the brand than are searching for the generic term. That's exactly the kind of flywheel you want to build. All right. Third one, let's talk about influence a little bit. So I think one of the problems that I still see in the marketing world is departments getting together and saying, okay, our audience is on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. That's like saying our audience is on the internet. It doesn't mean anything, right? Those are not places that have tactical value. What you want is the actual publications and people and accounts that influence your audience, right? So I think this is the common way people do this right now. They say, oh, okay, I'm going to try and influence food bloggers. So who are the most followed food bloggers on Instagram? No. That's the wrong way to think about it. It's not the most followed X, right? What it actually is the sources of influence followed by the most people like that, right? So your audience follows these publications and sources, pays attention to those places, and that is what you're searching for in an ideal world of influencer marketing, not, hey, we found a person who is a food blogger and has many followers. You don't know if those followers are real. You don't know if those are the followers you want to reach. You don't know if that's your audience, your target audience, right? You don't know if those people are going to convert. That's throwing a lot of dollars and effort away. It is hard to get this data right now. The best advice that I have is to do surveys and questionnaires and interviews, which is a manual, time-consuming process that is incredibly frustrating, and that's why it works. Seriously, any time you find a process that is really hard for other marketers to do, you get generally very good returns when you invest in it. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's a good way to do it. And you should not ignore all of these, right? Unlike the influencer marketing definition, you should broaden to all of these. Podcasts have incredible reach today. There are Facebook groups that are way better than Facebook public pages in terms of reach, way better than individual influencers in terms of reach. If your competition's ignoring some of these, awesome. That is great news. Might be harder to convince your managers, unfortunately, or your clients, but I do recommend that a lot too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how these social networks are working and why, despite the fact that they are driving down traffic that's available to us, there's still a tremendous opportunity to use social networks to derive value. So, I bet most of you have noticed how Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these places work, right? It's sort of the phenomenon of if you've proven engagement, you get rewarded with more visitors, more views. And if you prove that you are bad at engagement, they shove you down to the bottom. So here's my Facebook Insights page for my personal, Rand Fishkin page. And there's, I don't know, I thought it was a good talk. I gave a talk about startup culture somewhere. And I thought, I'll put this on my Facebook page. They did a nice, video. They had a good scene. Well, it did terribly, right? Just, I don't know, I have 75,000-ish followers or something, and it reached, less than 5% of them, which is still not that bad for Facebook because organic reach is so bad, but 1.7K. So the next post I put up, Facebook will show it to fewer people to start with. Right? I don't get the benefit of the doubt. Facebook is basically judging me and saying, okay, Fishkin, you look boring. You're out, right? We put you down at the bottom. So then the pressure is on, because if I post a few things that are boring in a row, my reach goes to nothing. I can't reach anybody. This is true on Twitter, it's true on LinkedIn. Like you just die in the algorithmic feeds. So I have to post something good. I gotta post something that gets real engagement in order to take advantage of these systems. And so my next one does reasonably well, considerably better anyway. And so now I'm gonna be shown more and more with my next few posts. And they sort of reward streaks. You have a good streak on Facebook, on Twitter, you are at the top of everybody's feed. That's how it works. So, these social algorithms are smart, right? They're designed to benefit Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Reddit and all of these parent companies, right? So they do three things. One, try and engage all of us, right? Keep us engaged on the platform, generate likes, shares, comments, views of the image, views of the video, whatever it is. They want to addict us. Right? So do users who see your content, do they stay on Facebook longer? Do they stay on Instagram longer? Do they stay on Twitter longer? Do they stay on LinkedIn longer? If the answer is yes, guess what? They love you. They want to show your content to more people. If the answer is no, not so much. And they want to retain. They want to know that people who see your stuff will come back to Instagram, back to LinkedIn, back to Reddit, back to Pinterest, back to Facebook. So your feed can take advantage of this. We can take advantage of this algorithmic system by having something that looks kind of like this. High engagement, non-promotional posts. I'm not trying to get anything. I'm just trying to deliver high engagement. Give my viewers, give the platform something that I know will draw high engagement from the people who follow me, right? And the people who follow them. And I do a few of those, and I intersperse, after I've built up a little bit of credibility, then I do my, hey, now I'm trying to drive traffic back to my website so that I can capture and cookie people and email people. I built up a little reputation. but I only do this intermittently. Then I go back. High engagement, non-promotional post, high engagement, non-promotional post. This is kind of the model, right? This is the way you want it to do it. You've got these ones earning brand exposure and earning you new followers, and you've got this one driving people back to your site so that you can benefit from the engagement you've built on the platform. All right, content. Let's talk about content and outreach campaigns. So one of the problems, this has been true for a long time in the content marketing world, is that those of us who are content creators and content marketers, we made stuff almost exclusively for our audience, the people who we wanted to buy things from us, right? That is not actually what works well in content marketing. There's what your customers care about, and a lot of us focus on that. But there's also what the publications and the influential people who have high reach in your field care about. And if you want your content to sail across the web, to do well, to drive that high engagement, like we were talking about with the posts on social, you need the intersection. This is where content creation, successful content marketing and content creation is going. Right? This is what is working really well for brands, is when they build this kind of stuff. And the more difficult a piece of content is to create, or a type of content is to create, the easier it is to stand out. Right? So, for Moz, a ton of the content marketing that I did was just blog posts. And they worked fine. But for SparkToro, I am changing my approach. Right? My co-founder and I got together and we said, hey, blogging, like putting up post after post, is not going to be the way to build an audience, and we're not going to have the success that we want to have. Let's do something that is very difficult for someone else to build. So we built things like the fake followers tool and the trending tool, right? These interactive tool elements. And this works across basically any type of content you can imagine. If it is harder to create, like a physical product or a mobile app or an interactive tool, it tends to have better ability to earn traction. And if it is very easy to create, a tweet, a photo, a blog post, it doesn't have the same staying power. It doesn't have the same ability to drive all the goals, all the things that you want. When it comes to outreach, I think that in a lot of the web marketing world, I know all of you have also been recipients of this. We call it spray and pray in English. I don't know. You just cast the net wide and you hope to whatever marketing gods you pray to that you will have some people convert. And this leads to both reputational damage of two kinds. One, with individual people, right? So you get spammed by someone, you feel a little worse about them. You don't like them as much, you don't like that brand as much. And two, algorithmically, right, you are less likely to do well. This is especially true on email reputation platforms, where Gmail, for example, will be more likely to put you into the promotions or the spam tab if you don't achieve high engagement and high reply ratios. When I have seen outreach do really well, especially in the content world and social media marketing world, it tends to have three aspects to it. It is human, right? It feels like I'm talking to a real person with a real form of communication, right? Just like I would if I were emailing, someone that I knew well. It's very targeted, meaning that the outreach is at the right time to the right person on the right subject. And three, it tends to be values driven, right? That it proves to us that we share some value-based connection. These are the ones that tend to get the most play. All right, almost done. Last one. So if you're trying to do advertising, right? If you are paying to target and reach your audience, and we know that these ad platforms are getting flooded by venture and private equity dollars and dollars that are seeking growth over profit, how in the world can we compete? It is just mind-numbingly hard to compete against so much not dumb money, but money that's not seeking a return. One of the things to keep in mind is that the first time a consumer sees an advertisement from a new company or hears about a new company, they are very unlikely to engage. So I saw this ad in my Instagram feed. I've never heard of Green Chef. I don't know what they do. Why do I want $40 off of a thing I don't know about? Why? It doesn't make any sense. Granted, Green Chef has a bunch of venture dollars behind it, so that's why it's showing there. But same thing here, right? I don't know you. I don't want money off of things I don't know and haven't heard of. I don't want to use things I haven't heard of. I'm going to click on things I am familiar with because I am a human being and we like comfort and familiarity and trust. And so ad ROI sucks in those types of spaces. This is a graphic from a WordStream. I apologize for the complexity, but basically what it's showing here is the same thing that you would see in Google. So, ad 1 at the top of Google's results, 2, 3, 4, works the same way in display, works the same way in social advertising on Facebook or on Instagram or in LinkedIn. And that is, if you are known and loved, you pay a smaller price to reach more people. You have a higher click-through rate and a lower cost per click. So your cost of customer acquisition is low and your ROI is high. But if no one's ever heard of you, your engagement rates are low. So even if you pay a fortune, right, the highest cost per click, you are going to be put down at the bottom of those results, shown less frequently than your competitors, because the ad platforms are long-term thinkers. Instagram doesn't want the most money per view. They want the most engagement per view. They want people coming back to them again and again. And irrelevant ads or ads that get very low engagement, they don't want to show you. They don't want to show anyone. So if you want to win at digital ads, right, you first earn brand exposure with the 5 things we talked about before, right? With content, with social, with brand, with product, with organic search. And then, once you've received one organic visit or captured an email address or a follow, now you know that person knows you, has heard of you, hopefully likes you and trusts you more. Now you can go ahead and advertise to those people. This formula still works really well, but it's organic first, paid second. And for that reason, it doesn't get the same level of adoption, and that's why it's a competitive advantage. So, it's not all doom and gloom. It is a tough, tough world out there for digital marketers. It has never been more challenging. It's also never been a more exciting time to be able to stand out from the crowd by producing extraordinary results. And that's what I hope I've helped all of you with. Thank you so much.